Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, Will Dissly, all released by the Seahawks. There is a lot of change happening right now, and there is a lot of money moving around, and I'm trying my best to break it down for all of you. Now, the cap room situation is a very interesting one. There is a lot of different people out there giving different numbers and different ideas. Because of the cap space is confusing. Some websites like Over the Cap might be assuming that it's a post June 1st cut. It's supposedly, according to Corbin Smith, a pre-June 1st cut, and that gives us a different number on what the cap space will be. But there are a couple things we know, and we're going to break them down as well as we can in today's video. And make sure like and subscribe. A quick like on the video does a lot more than you know, and it helps me do more videos for you guys. Comment below what you think. Subscribe if you haven't already. And check out the links in our description. We have a Seahawks podcast. We already released one about this topic, and a Mariners podcast, and a Huskies page, all below in the description. So check those out. And let's get to the cuts today. First and foremost, the Jamal Adams one was one that many people were expecting, right? I don't think that one is very shocking to anybody, to say the least, because everyone believed it was, the injury history, the stuff with the reporter earlier this year talking about somebody's wife. And there was just a lot of things showing that, hey, this is probably not going to work. But for it to come together, I mean, most of the reports, like Tom Pelissero, the Seahawks are releasing 3-time Pro Bowl safeties. And I started reading and I was like, excuse me? Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs per sources. The move saves $27.5 million in cash and significant cap space for Seattle. And then 5 minutes later, maybe even less, it was like 3 minutes later, you get Seahawks have informed Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, and Will Dissly they will be released. Seahawks are saving $34.5 million with these cuts. Now, how does that add up everything? That's what we're trying to get to. According to Corbin Smith, he believes the Seahawks have $36.22 million in cap space after outright releasing Quandre Diggs, Will Dissly, and Jamal Adams. Outright releasing means that it's not going to be post June 1st. We're taking on all the dead money this year for Jamal Adams. And then it will be $36 million in cap space as a team available to use now, which is the big thing here. Is not till June, not after the draft in June. We can start using that money now. And that's where most people think this number is sitting at. Like I said, there are a lot of different, everywhere is looking a little different right now. If you go to overthecap.com, they updated us to 10th in the most cap space available at $42 million, and the effective cap space at $34. That's one place that has it. If you go to a Spot Track, another reliable source usually, we're at 16th in cap space at $32.7. Now, it's clear. We are sitting somewhere between 32 to 40 million now in cap space, which will put us somewhere. We went from 12 million to somewhere between 32 and 40 million. So this move is a humongous decision for the Seahawks, but it's also a huge cap space release and helps the Seahawks in many, many ways. Obviously, it gives them a much easier opportunity to, one, either re-sign, Leonard Williams, Jordan Brooks, Bobby Wagner, whoever it may be, and be making some moves in free agency potentially. I mean, if you waited till June to do these cuts, like post June 1st, even for the Jamal Adams one, we would have gone into the draft with $12 million in cap space, probably not able to re-sign anybody or make any moves in free agency. We would have been super tight on cash. Now that the cash is freeing up, we're going to be able to make moves before the draft day, after the draft, whatever it may be. We'll be in a situation where we are able to make moves basically regardless of money now, without the money being a super duper tricky part, because they can still do more moves. And that's the other thing you got to get to here is Tyler Lockett was, I think, the second biggest cap hit on the team. There could be a restructuring there. There could be a release and re-sign for a cheaper cost. Monet, I mean, he's something, Brian Monet is somebody that people are going to be looking at. Nick Ballore, D. Eskridge. There's going to be a lot of them that people are looking at to say, how can we release some of this cash? And some of them might be back on cheaper deals for all we know. And I think we mentioned this on the podcast that I mentioned that you can find link in the description on Seattle on Tap's page. Adams is not going to re-sign for a smaller contract. That'd be shocking, right? Unless he has zero other options and Mike McDonald really wanted him or something. That's just not happening. Will Dissly is 27 or 28, I believe. He's actually a good young tight end. I think we're just moving in complete different directions in tight ends. And I don't think, I think he's actually going to find a decent home for a decent price. I think we're just trying to find somebody in the draft or completely sign somebody in free agency different. Because Noah Fant's a free agent. Parkinson's the free agent, and now Dissly's released. They're obviously going in a completely different direction at tight end. Diggs is the interesting one. Now, Diggs, there's probably a completely two-sided story if you go to Twitter or social media or just read anything about him. The difference between his numbers and his tape, right? Because some of the analytics and numbers can show you two different things. Some show an extremely regressed player, and some show actually that he's kind of been all right at nearly the same level that he's been in for the last few years. The tape also shows two different things, but especially one big thing is the tackling's been pretty bad, right? The tackling's pretty bad, and that really makes the tape look a lot worse. So it's kind of a shot in the dark about what exactly did the Seahawks see with the Diggs thing. Is it just a money move? Do they actually think he's regressed that much? Or are they looking to potentially find a way to bring him back just on a more reasonable deal? That's what's going to be interesting. Now, let's get to what I just found here on Twitter. Okay? On Twitter by Nick Corte. Update on the players that have been cut. Almost $274 million of the 2024 salaries have been shed. Safety is absolutely dominating as a position that's hit the hardest, unfortunately, for people. Unfortunately for safeties. Okay, so let's see. This is what they have the Seahawks on, and this will be on the screen on this video. Jamal Adams was the biggest cash saved that have been cut so far, $16.5 million. Let's go down to Quandre Diggs at $11 million. Will Dissly at $7 million saved for the Seahawks. Now, that puts the most cash saved out of any team so far is the Seahawks at $34.5 million in cash saved. The Dolphins are at 30 right after them, Jaguars, Bears, etc., etc. And as you can see, and this is a lot to do with the Seahawks, $75 million in cash saved by safeties so far on this cut day. Two of them are big ones from the Seahawks. 11 and 16, so $27 million by the Seahawks of that $75 million. We're a little bit over 33% of that. So Seahawks are saving a lot of money here. That's why these things happen. There's obviously there's pros and cons to why these type of things happen. This one is simply, one, I think it's a new era, and two, it's time to just change the money situation. This can be interesting. There's going to be a couple other guys that end up being cut and that save up space. I'm guessing it's Monet and maybe Reed, Lockett. Not guys that I'm looking forward, especially like Lockett to be a very, one of those shocking ones, but it is a new era. There's less emotion here. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying keep your eyes open because these things will drop left and right. Like we saw the Will Dissly thing drop, the Quandre Diggs one. I know Adams wasn't as shocking, but they drop. They come out of nowhere. Some of them might be moves that are made permanently for this team. Some might be moves that they're trying their best to find other ways to spread out the money, like I said. So do not be surprised if you see a release in a sign Lockett for cheaper or restructuring of a contract. Things like that need to happen. They're, like I said, they're in a new era. They're trying to find a way to make this all work out with having money. To go from $12 million in cap space to immediately having somewhere between 33 and 40, 32 and $40 million it brings a lot of opportunities. We might be able to re-sign, Leonard Williams, Jordan Brooks, Bobby Wagner. If you're trying to make a big move, like go get Patrick Queen, somebody like that, this money is what makes that humanly possible. So I'm really interested to see what's going to go down the rest of this offseason. It's a new time in Seattle. I also just want to know, how do you guys feel about it? I mean, it's a lot, it's a big change. At the end of the day, it's probably what's best for the Seahawks. And, they're trying to figure out a way to shed the weight that they don't want right now, save some money. It might not be their best season as a coaching staff and a new regime, right? But do what you can this year, and then next year and the year after, you start to build closer and closer to where you want to get to the promised land. And that's kind of what happened with Pete Carroll and John Schneider, right? It took a year, 2 years, and then you're like, wait a second. Then we got our quarterback in Russell Wilson, and then boom, now we're moving. And like they're just trying to get these things happening. Like I said, sources are telling Corbin Smith it's not a post June 1st cut for Jamal Adams. They are going to cut him right now. They're not spreading the dead cap. They're going to hit it all, absorbing it all in 2024. They're trying to take everything they can this year, do the cuts, take the dead cap money, take the hits this year. So next year, 2025, 2026, you can start building towards where you really want to get, which is probably a Super Bowl, victory in all reality. So big money's cleared up, big changes in Seattle. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments. And remember, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Any of those things really help. And check out the links in the description to find everything that we're doing here at the Sports on Tap. You're listening to Sammy on Tap, and we'll be back next time. I love y'all. Peace.